Welcome to Bonhill Geography. In today's video, I'll outline the impacts of population growth on rural areas and population decline on rural areas, with the main focus of South Cambridgeshire for population growth and on the Outer Hebrides for population decline. Firstly, let's start with South Cambridgeshire. Now, it's experienced significant population growth over the last past several decades. Between 1950 and 2020, the population increased by approximately 92,000 people. That represents a growth rate of about 131.4%. That's mental. Now, this growth has brought about several modern social impacts. Modern development on the edges of villages and gentrification of abandoned farm buildings can lead to the breakdown in community spirit. Commuters often use the services in the places where they work, such as Cambridge, which can also negatively affect the rural economy. You see a really nice example of a barn conversion here. Housing affordability is hence a major issue. Young people often struggle to get on the property ladder and can't afford the high cost of housing. As a result, they will simply move away. Now, this can lead to an ageing population as younger residents leave the area for more affordable places. This process can also be called gentrification and could lead to the loss of the area's culture as migration from other parts of the UK increases. So the local traditions of the area decline as the elderly population that already own a property unfortunately die. Now, within Cambridgeshire, about 80% of households have at least one car. Now, that's led to increased traffic on narrow country roads, causing congestion and significantly longer times for travel. Now, economically, the region has seen a massive shift from traditional farming to more construction and service-based jobs. This has mainly been due to the reduction in agricultural employment as farmers have sold their land for housing development, where they have been offered millions of pounds when, quite frankly, they wouldn't be making much of an income as it was. Despite this increased house growth, the lack of affordable housing still remains a significant problem. South Cambridgeshire is one of the most expensive areas to live within the county, which can lead to significant economic disparities, and again, this idea of most people actually being commuters working in different areas of the UK so they can afford to live there. Now, environmentally, South Cambridgeshire faces challenges such as high CO2 emissions due to the increased traffic flow and again these single lane roads where there's significant amount of traffic. There's also a lack of public transport availability. Now, it actually has one of the highest CO2 emissions per capita for total emissions compared to any other districts within the county of Cambridgeshire. Now, that's partly due to the high car ownership and traffic congestion. As the area is actually growing, again, it's this idea that there's no public transport links being made, so people unfortunately don't have any other option rather than to drive a car, which again is a lack of foresight in their planning. Now, as previously stated, the development of this new housing and infrastructure can lead to changes in that land use, going from a farmer's field and a green space or woodland, as a result then becoming an urbanised area. That is going to significantly affect local biodiversity and contribute to what we call urban sprawl. As a reminder, this is where urban areas will grow in size. So a small village might then become a town, might then become a very large town. Now, it is also important to note that an increased population would lead to a higher consumption of resources like water and energy, which can significantly strain local infrastructure and natural resources. Okay, so now let's look at the Outer Hebrides and population decline. As a reminder, you can find a summary of all of the things I'm talking about within this at the end of the video. Between 1950 and 2020, the population of the Outer Hebrides has significantly decreased by about 8,800 people, representing a decline of about 25.1%. Now, this decline has led to an ageing population, with fewer people being of working age. This means the viability of communities and the Gaelic language integral to the region's cultural identity are at risk. Now, fewer children in the area can result in school closures. This can significantly impact the local education access for people that do still choose to have them. This can lead to longer travel times for students and reduced access to educational resources, as a result significantly affecting their potential future outcomes for the economy. It's important to note that this ageing population increases the demand for healthcare services, which can significantly strain the local healthcare infrastructure. There might also be more of a need for specialised care facilities and services to support these elderly residents. But, as you can imagine, there's not really enough money to put into these services. Now, economically, the main farming economy, which involves breeding sheep on small farms called crofts, can only provide limited work. That's going to lead to quite significant economic challenges as young people move away in search of better opportunities. Now, more recently, it's shifted from this traditional sheep farming to more service-based jobs, but again, those opportunities remain quite limited. For example, people in the UK might visit the Outer Hebrides, for an example, in sustainable tourism, many choosing staycations rather than going abroad. Now, it's also important to note that the decline in population can lower demand for housing. Now, that can significantly affect property values, with all of them dropping hundreds of percent. Now, that again is going to affect the local economy. That can result in lots of vacant properties and reduced investment or confidence in investment in the area, particularly within the housing developments themselves. Now, environmentally, the population decline has actually reduced people's impact, so it's benefited local biodiversity and natural habitats. However, maintaining that infrastructure for people to get around does become quite challenging with fewer people. What is also important to note, however, is if the sheep are not removed from the island in many of the areas that are no longer managed by people, they will continue to graze, potentially overgraze in certain crofts. Now, the Outer Hebrides do have one thing going for them, which is wind. They have significant renewable energy potential, including wind and wave energy. However, the decline in population may actually affect the ability to develop and maintain these projects, meaning there would have to be lots of external investment and support from mainland Britain or Scotland. Here are two potential 6-mark questions. However, it's quite important to note that this could be a 9-mark question. So for 6 marks, we go for 2 peel. For a 9 mark, we'd go for 3. Now, on the next 2 slides, you have some example answers, but again, please do have a try at them and pause here if you are able to do so. Thank you for watching Bonhill Geography. I'll catch you in the next video.